Syria after Israeli airstrikes reportedly killed at least 9 civilians near the city of Nawa. The provincial government in Dara accused Israeli forces of launching an incursion deeper into Syrian territory than ever before. Israel's military said it responded to gunfire during an operation, targeting and eliminating several fighters in both ground and air attacks. A military spokesperson said weapons in southern Syria pose a threat and vowed to act against them. Meanwhile, Syria's foreign ministry condemned the strikes as a flagrant violation of sovereignty, citing severe damage, including the destruction of Hama's military airport. State media also reported strikes near a defense research center in Damascus. Israel defended the attack, saying its forces hit military sites in Hama and T4, as well as infrastructure in Damascus. We are now joined by Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist located in New Delhi, to discuss this further. Thank you very much for joining us, Gautam. Gautam, what I was wondering, obviously we saw the fall of the Assad regime in December of last year. What's the likelihood that these Israeli strikes could escalate into a wider conflict? And what's Israel's aim with these strikes?
Well, I think it's mainly to protect the area which adjuncts Israel and make sure that the Syrians do not get hold of the heights in order to attack Israel. Now, the present administration is unclear about its position with regard to Israel and whether they're going to treat them as enemies or come to terms with them. But Israel, on its part, is not taking any chances.
So Israel has often cited threats from the Iranian-backed militias in Syria. How much of these recent strikes are strictly about neutralizing these threats, and how much are they sending a political message to Iran and Syria's allies?
Well, Syrian-backed, Iranian-backed militias are definitely not going to make peace with Israel. They are in it for the long haul. They've been backing the Hamas and the Hezbollah and are operating on every border of Israel. So that fight will continue. But if there is a rapprochement with the government as such of Syria, the new government, then these people will be somewhat isolated and the fighting could stop. In the meantime, Israel has no choice but to keep on trying to decimate them so that they don't increase their threat perception.
Gautam, Syria's interim government is obviously trying to put through a positive image on the world stage. How much of this can we kind of trust as a country as it goes right now? How stable is Syria as a place, and why do Israel do they feel the need to strike it? Why do they feel threatened by Syria currently?
Well, it's the militias rather than the interim government. The interim government, I think, will be looking for foreign investment to put back the country on its feet. It is a highly populated country. A lot of Syrians who were opposed to the Assad regime have returned to Syria. There may be other regimes in the Middle East quite willing to help, as long as they are moderate and are not going to continue the policies of the previous regime. So I think it is more likely that they will not take the stance of being anti-Israel. So now it's really a two-pronged thing. One is to make rapprochement and good relations with the interim government, and two, to hit the militias supported by Iran so that they cannot do much damage.
Gwata Mukherjee, thank you very much for joining us. We have some incoming news in regards to Donald Trump's new tariffs. Britain is in a relatively better position than the European Union after the US announced new tariffs. Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds has released a statement in regard to this. His remarks follow President Donald Trump's decision to impose a 10% levy on UK goods, lower than the rate for the European Union. Speaking to Sky News, Reynolds acknowledged the advantage but still called the tariff a disappointment. The move adds new pressure to UK-EU trade relations amid ongoing economic challenges. Let's move on now. Thousands of Haitians flooded the streets of Port-au-Prince on Wednesday, protesting against the armed gangs that have seized control of nearly the entire capital. The gangs operating under the coalition Viv and Ansem have forced over 1 million people from their homes, crippled the economy and fueled mass hunger. Protesters carried banners and palm fronds, some wielding machetes and firearms, demanding action from the transitional government, which they accuse of corruption and inaction. The demonstration, which began peacefully, descended into chaos as gunfire erupted, sending crowds fleeing. Here's what one of the protesters had to say. Critics say state authorities have failed to counter gang advances, with Haiti's judicial system paralysed amid ongoing violence. Let's take a listen to what some more locals had to say.
Ma pou nou te kou descend nou la ri, jen gasonye, ou moment nè yo gebem, yo sa ka le bara les âmes sou mwen, le bara les âmes sou mwen, yo bat mwen, le bat mwen, imagino men. E moun mwen ba bet, imagino koman mwen. Imagino mge 4-6 moun pou mbay manji. Imagino. Sa, ne ben diyo kou de yem, c'est des obligés. C'est un obligé monter. C'est un obligé monter. Mal des t-shirts de non mais moun mal soupouiller, mal laver pour bon t-shirt de pour mal vendre.
Mais je dis, on nous prend exemple, on filme mon salon, pour nous dans qui état que nous mettons somme de population. Cap souffrir, qui va même qu'on côté on là. Cap crier, qui va comme qui ça on doit faire.
Well, that's all we have time for. We'll continue to bring you more news updates from across the world.